The boutique's golden chandeliers glittered as Isla Warren stood alone, her simple linen dress drawing sneers from a sea of silk and diamonds. Laughter erupted, cameras flashed, and hashtags mocking her flooded social media, but she didn't flinch. Moments later, the doors burst open, and the most powerful woman in New York stepped in, ready to turn their cruelty into a reckoning the world would never forget. Isla Warren felt the weight of 1,000 stares the moment she stepped through the gleaming glass doors of Bellamy Lux, Madison Avenue's most coveted temple of excess. Her simple white linen dress whispered against her skin, her worn slip-ons barely making a sound on the marble floors that gleamed under $1,000 chandelier's rain of light. Clutched in her arms was an old leather-bound notebook and a cracked iPhone 6, relics of a life no one in this boutique cared to understand. Bellamy Lux was a cathedral to Manhattan's elite, a place where hedge fund wives, tech moguls, and social media royalty came to buy not just clothes, but the illusion of invincibility. Every rack was a shrine to exclusivity, silk dresses dripping with Swarovski crystals, $3,000 clutches nestled in glass cases, the air itself thick with the scent of tuberose perfume and disdain. Isla's entrance triggered an immediate, rippling sneer across the boutique. Tessa Lane, a platinum blonde influencer with 500,000 followers, caught sight of her first, her laughter bursting through the curated jazz soundtrack. Did she wander in from a garage sale? She barked, flashing her phone up to record. Hashtags formed instantly in group chats, #LuxFail, #Who let her in. A circle of socialites sipping champagne by the velvet sofa snickered behind manicured hands. Gina Marston, wrapped in a fox-trimmed coat and dangling a $25,000 Hermes Birkin, leaned in and hissed loud enough for Isla to hear, "Maybe she's here to clean the floors." The staff were no kinder. Callie Winters, with her tight black dress and sharper tongue, sauntered up to Isla, her eyes raking over the plain linen and battered shoes with contempt. "Can I help you?" she said, her voice sugared with cruelty. "This is Bellamy Lux. Our thrift store is 10 blocks south." Another employee, a wiry man arranging $5,000 handbags, snorted in agreement. Isla's hazel eyes stayed steady, the only sign of hurt a slight tightening of her grip. On the notebook. The marble beneath her slip-ons felt ice-cold, but she did not move. She had not come to Bellamy Lux to shop. She had come to see the woman who had stolen her life. Phones flashed like paparazzi bulbs. Tessa was already posting Isla's entrance to her Instagram stories, tagging it with captions like #NotOurVibe and #Madison Avenue Misstep. Within minutes, the footage had 20,000 views, comments pouring in with laughing emojis and brutal mockery. "Farm girl got lost," one said. "Somebody call security," said another. Callie Winters smirked, her arms crossed as if daring Isla to protest. But Isla, raised on grace forged in adversity, said nothing. Her quiet was her armor. She moved slowly through the boutique, trailing fingers lightly across the silk and sequins, each item stitched with the currency of a world that had rejected her before even knowing her name. From behind a towering display of diamond-studded stilettos, she heard them plotting her final humiliation. "Get her out of here," Gina Marston urged. "She's scaring the real clients." Tessa Lane, already live again on TikTok, fake-pouted at the camera. "We really need better gatekeeping," she said, her voice dripping with theatrical sorrow. Behind Isla, Callie Winters whispered to the wiry male employee, "Bet she's casing the place. Probably has hay in that notebook." They laughed, loud enough for the luxury clientele to smirk along. As Isla turned a corner toward the evening gown section, she caught a glimpse of herself in a gilded mirror, the stark contrast of her plainness against the boutique's manufactured glamour. Her chestnut hair was pulled into a simple low bun, not the artful chaos of the rich. Her face bore only a hint of gloss, not the heavy lacquer of social climbers. Yet her reflection did not falter. If anything, she looked quietly, devastatingly sure. Bellamy Lux did not know her, but it would remember her. From the marble staircase that curled upward like a frozen wave, the boutique's queen descended. Veronica Steele, dressed in a buttercream blazer tailored so sharp it could draw blood, her auburn hair styled into magazine cover perfection, her red lipstick a weapon, surveyed Isla like an unwelcome bug. At 45, Veronica had built Bellamy Lux into a $50 million brand, her face gracing Vogue editorials and her parties the envy of the Hamptons. Her empire, though, was built on a lie, the life she had stolen from Islaw through a hospital mix-up she had fought to conceal. Veronica's gaze swept over Islaw's dress, her cracked phone, her silent defiance, and a smile curved on her lips, slow and savage. "Did you get lost on your way to the community center?" she purred, her voice carrying across the boutique. A ripple of laughter followed. Tessa clapped like a seal, delighted. Callie hid a giggle behind her clipboard. Veronica stepped closer, her heels clicking with deliberate cruelty. "If you like something," she added, her tone syrupy with mockery, "I'll gift it to you. Clearly, you can't afford anything here." The cameras flashed again. Tessa's followers screamed with laughter in the comments. Gina Marston sipped her champagne, smirking. It was a public execution of Islaw's worth, a trial by vanity and mockery. The hashtag Bellamy fail trended locally within minutes. Yet Islaw did not flinch. Her hazel eyes met Veronica's, steady as stone. Her silence screamed louder than their insults. Around her, the boutique buzzed with the predatory joy of the elite sensing blood. The room reeked of tuberose and cruelty. Staff whispered behind counters, socialites elbowed one another for better angles to film the downfall of the woman they thought was beneath them. The boutique's Instagram live ballooned to 100,000 viewers, the chat a waterfall of mockery and laughing emojis. Islaw's slip-ons, worn and scuffed, stood firm on marble floors that had seen countless fortunes walk their polished paths. She would not run. She would not lower her gaze. Every breath she took was a quiet rebellion. She was not here to buy silk or sip champagne. She was here to see the truth with her own eyes, the truth that was about to shatter Bellamy Lux's golden illusion forever. The mockery still hung thick in the air, a toxic fog of laughter and disdain, when the heavy glass doors of Bellamy Lux swung open again with a gust of spring air sharp enough to slice through the boutique's smug atmosphere. The golden light from Madison Avenue framed the silhouette of a woman whose presence alone commanded silence. Celine Cross, billionaire tech mogul and Islaw Warren's fiercest ally, entered with the quiet, lethal grace of a queen surveying her court. She was a vision in a sharply tailored white suit, her red-soled Louboutins clicking against the marble like a metronome of authority, a black Amex card already glinting between her fingers. Her high ponytail was sleek as glass, her square sunglasses hiding eyes that saw everything. The boutique's laughter stuttered and died. Callie Winters froze mid-smirk, her clipboard slipping slightly in her hand. Tessa Lane, still filming Islaw's supposed humiliation, dropped her phone with a soft clatter. Veronica Steele's blood-red smile faltered, the color draining from her cheeks as she took an instinctive half-step back. Customers craned their necks, the tension crackling like static. Bellamy Lux's Instagram Live, which moments ago was a flood of laughing emojis and cruel comments, exploded with new chatter, royalty alert. "Is that Celine Cross? What is happening?" The boutique staff scrambled, smoothing skirts and fixing name tags, as if such last-minute polish could erase their cruelty. Celine's gaze swept the boutique, a laser cut of cool precision, and then landed on Islaw, standing alone beneath the chandelier, her notebook clutched tightly, her linen dress glowing softly under the golden light. Without a word, Celine moved toward the counter, where Veronica stood frozen, trying to summon the smile that had won over Vogue editors and gala committees alike. "Good afternoon, Miss Cross," Veronica simpered, her voice sticky with sudden desperation. "Anything you like, anything at all, is yours." The room leaned in, breathless, phones rising in trembling hands to capture whatever came next. Celine paused, her voice low, each word carrying the weight of final judgment. "I'll take it all." A gasp rippled through the boutique, Tessa Lane audibly choking on her own spit. "I want every piece on the floor. Every sample. Every dress, every shoe, every bag," Celine continued, sliding the black Amex across the counter. "Full payment. No discounts." Callie Winters blinked so hard her mascara smudged. Veronica, for once, was speechless, her hands trembling as she tried to process the scope of what was happening. Staff members scrambled into action, piling bags, dresses, and shoes at the counter in a frenzy, their hands slipping on silk and leather. The total climbed into the millions in minutes, $2 million and counting, the boutique's inventory stripped bare by one swift, merciless transaction. The Instagram Live hit 500,000 viewers, the comments a wildfire of disbelief. She bought the whole store. Celine Cross doesn't play. OMG, this is iconic. Yet Celine wasn't finished. She turned away from the counter, the sea of luxury goods towering behind her, and walked to Isla, her heels echoing in the stunned silence. She stopped in front of her friend, the only person in the room who had never bowed, never begged, never broken. Celine's sunglasses slipped down to reveal eyes shining with fierce loyalty. "They're all yours," she said, her voice like a quiet storm. Isla blinked once, her calm cracking into something almost too raw to bear. The boutique staff and customers gaped, the humiliation boomeranging back upon them with brutal force. Tessa's live stream faltered, her phone slipping from nerveless fingers. Gina Marston dropped her champagne flute with a shatter. Callie stumbled backward into a rack of Valentino. Veronica Steele clutched the edge of the counter, white-knuckled, as the entire boutique realized, too late, the magnitude of their mistake. Isla Warren was not a charity case. She was not a farm girl lost among silks and diamonds. She was the rightful heir to a billion-dollar dynasty they had dared to mock. And Celine Cross had come not just to defend her, but to deliver justice. Celine turned back toward the counter, where Veronica still stood rooted in horror. Her voice sharpened to a blade. "You humiliated the wrong woman," she said, her words slicing through the boutique like shrapnel. "Let's clear up the confusion." She signaled to her assistant, who stepped forward with a leather folio. Inside were documents, hospital records, DNA tests, notarized statements, the ironclad proof of Veronica's theft. Isla stepped forward then, her voice soft but cutting, the strength of 26 years of silence forged into steel. "You were switched at birth," she said, her hazel eyes boring into Veronica's. "You lived my life. You turned my family against me. And you built this empire on a lie." Veronica's lips moved soundlessly, her mind scrambling for defenses that didn't exist. The boutique's live stream now surged past 1 million viewers. Hashtag Isla Triumph shot to the #1 trending topic in the United States. Isla's words rang out clear as a bell. "I have the proof. Hospital documents. DNA tests. Even your text messages, plotting to keep me out once you realized the truth." From her notebook, Isla pulled a small USB drive and set it gently on the marble counter like a gavel ending a trial. "Everything's on there." The silence was so thick it hummed. Veronica swayed, her perfect world crumbling before her very eyes. Customers backed away from her as if her disgrace were contagious. Staff members exchanged panicked glances. Tessa Lane, realizing the magnitude of the disaster, tried to edge toward the door, but Celine's assistant blocked her path with a shake of the head. There would be no easy exits today. The boutique's Instagram Live feed finally crashed under the flood of millions of viewers, but not before capturing the moment Veronica Steele's empire cracked like glass under a diamond heel. Celine slid her sunglasses back up the bridge of her nose and turned to Isla. "Ready to go?" she asked lightly, as if they'd just finished brunch instead of destroying an empire. Isla smiled, a small, luminous smile that turned the ashes of Bellamy Lux's grandeur into dust at her feet. Together, they walked out, hand in hand, leaving behind $2 million worth of merchandise piled high and a roomful of stunned spectators. The boutique's chandeliers seemed to dim as the glass doors swung shut behind them, as if even the light itself bowed to the end of Bellamy Lux's reign. The glass doors of Bellamy Lux closed behind Isla Warren and Celine Cross with a soft finality, but inside the boutique, the chaos detonated like a bomb. Veronica Steele clutched the counter, her blood-red manicure trembling against the marble as the boutique's Instagram Live continued to melt down in real time, the comments scrolling faster than anyone could read. "She's the real heir? Veronica's done. This is historic." Tessa Lane, still frozen in her designer heels, watched her own live stream nosedive from triumph to catastrophe, the chat flooded with insults and unfollows. Her agent's desperate texts buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't dare move. Gina Marston backed away from the wreckage like a woman fleeing a crime scene, her Birkin swinging wildly at her elbow. Callie Winters dropped her clipboard, the crash loud in the hollow boutique where the chandeliers no longer seemed to shine so brightly. Across social media, the hashtags mutated from hashtag LuxFail to hashtag Warren Legacy and hashtag Bellamy Collapse, viral storms gathering within minutes. News outlets picked up the live stream footage, stitching Islaw's quiet dignity against Veronica's unraveling composure, replaying the moment Celine bought the entire boutique just to crown Islaw in vindication. Within the hour, headlines screamed across America, Billionaire's best friend exposes boutique scandal. Heir revealed in Madison Avenue meltdown. Investors in Bellamy Lux's parent company yanked their funding with lightning speed. Lawyers began calling. Veronica's phone vibrated over and over, her world crumbling one notification at a time. By evening, Bellamy Lux's flagship store was shuttered, lights dimmed behind hastily drawn blinds, the boutique that had once hosted Manhattan's elite now a silent, hollow tomb. Veronica's personal assets were frozen pending investigation into fraud and conspiracy charges, her attorneys deserting her like rats from a sinking ship. The boutique's PR team issued a limp apology that only fueled the fire, trending for hours under hashtag Too Little Too Late. Meanwhile, Tessa Lane's influencer empire collapsed like a house of cards. Brands like Dior, Balenciaga, and Louis Vuitton severed ties publicly, each statement a nail in the coffin of her once glittering career. Her follower count plummeted by the tens of thousands every hour, her sponsorships canceled in brutal succession. Desperate to save herself, Tessa posted a tearful apology video, but it was instantly ratioed by angry comments and sarcastic memes. "Maybe you can get a job folding linens," one comment said, racking up 1 million likes. Gina Marston, once a fixture in the Hamptons charity circuit, found her invitations revoked, her so-called friends distancing themselves with surgical precision. Within days, her Birkin bags were up for auction to cover mounting debts, her lavish lifestyle a memory swallowed by whispers and mockery. Callie Winters, once the boutique's rising star, discovered the fashion world's memory was long and unforgiving. Blacklisted from every major house on Fifth Avenue, her resume stained with the scandal, she was left clutching her dreams with nowhere to go. Applications to other boutiques vanished into silence, friends stopped answering her calls. She stood outside Bellamy Lux's locked doors a week later, staring at her reflection, realizing too late that cruelty had a price. But it was Veronica Steele who fell the hardest. The $20 million lawsuit filed by Islaw was a spear through her empire's rotten heart. Faced with irrefutable evidence, the DNA results, the hospital's original records, the damning texts proving her knowledge of the switch, Veronica had no defense. The court ordered the liquidation of her personal assets. Her Upper East Side penthouse, her prized art collection, even her beloved closet of couture, gone. Vogue pulled every past feature of her from their archives, her face digitally scrubbed as if she had never existed. Bellamy Lux's social media accounts were deactivated, its brand blacklisted from Fashion Week. Veronica, once a queen of New York society, was reduced to a pariah overnight. On the other side of the storm, Islaw Warren did not bask in revenge. She moved quietly, with the same humility that had carried her through years of silent exile. She took her settlement, an eye-watering figure that swelled her reclaimed fortune to $12 billion, and built something greater than revenge. The Warren Foundation was launched 6 months later, a nonprofit dedicated to finding and helping displaced heirs, adoptees, and others whose lives had been fractured by injustice. Its first gala, held at a sunlit rooftop in Brooklyn, raised $20 million on opening night, the guests not the shallow elites of Bellamy Lux, but survivors, dreamers, and builders who understood the value of truth over titles. Islaw stood at the center of it all, her linen dress now iconic, a symbol of resilience worn proudly against a backdrop of hope. Beside her was Celine Cross, no longer just a tech billionaire behind the scenes, but Islaw's sister in arms, her unwavering protector and biggest believer. The two women, once dismissed by the fashion elite, now set a new standard. Dignity, authenticity, and loyalty were the new currency of worth. Madison Avenue's boutiques scrambled to rebrand themselves, desperate to distance from the ghost of Bellamy Luxe's downfall. Fashion magazines ran features titled The Rise of Real, Warren's Way, and How Isla Warren Redefined Luxury. Social media, once the weapon of her humiliation, became her crown. #WarrenWins trended globally for days. Interviews flooded in, but Isla was selective. She chose carefully, telling her story not with bitterness, but with grace. It was never about proving them wrong, she said once on national TV, her hazel eyes steady. It was about proving myself right. The world watched, riveted, as the girl once mocked for worn shoes and a simple dress rose to become an icon of grace under fire. Veronica Steele, stripped of her stolen life, faded into obscurity, her name a cautionary tale whispered among the ruins of greed. Tessa Lane was spotted bagging groceries at a Manhattan market, her designer wardrobe a memory, her Instagram dormant. Gina Marston sold off the last of her jewelry to pay her mounting legal fees. Callie Winters scraped by, working a retail job on the outskirts of the city, her dreams of luxury buried under endless shifts. Meanwhile, Isla thrived, but quietly. She did not flaunt her wealth or her victory. Instead, she planted community gardens, funded scholarships, and sat with displaced children in foster homes, listening to stories that mirrored her own. She wore her linen dress often, not because she couldn't afford designer, but because it reminded her that strength was not stitched in silk, but forged in storms. On warm summer evenings, Isla and Celine would sit together on Isla's Brooklyn rooftop, coffee mugs in hand, watching the city lights shimmer like distant stars. No crowds, no cameras, just the quiet satisfaction of a life reclaimed and rebuilt. They talked of future projects, future battles, future dreams, a life defined not by what was taken, but by what they chose to build. In the end, Bellamy Luxe was a footnote. Isla Warren was the story. And the world, at last, knew her name. In the story of Isla Warren, we find a lesson that transcends luxury, status, or fame. We see a truth that speaks to every one of us who has ever been underestimated, mocked, or overlooked because of how we appeared on the outside. Isla's journey reminds us that dignity is not defined by designer clothes or sparkling jewelry, but by the quiet, unshakable strength within us. It's easy to judge someone based on first impressions, to assume value based on appearances. But true worth cannot be measured by material things. True worth is measured by resilience, by integrity, and by the way we choose to carry ourselves when the world tries to tear us down. In a society that so often rewards image over character, Isla's story calls us back to what truly matters. She could have fought back with anger. She could have lashed out. But instead, she stood firm in grace, letting the truth speak louder than any insult. And when her moment came, she didn't use it to gloat. She used it to build, to heal, and to lead. Her story is a reminder that we don't have to respond to cruelty with cruelty. We can respond with dignity. We can turn betrayal into a platform for greater good. We can choose to build something lasting out of the very stones others throw at us. To everyone listening today, let Isla's story encourage you. No matter how the world judges you, no matter how loudly others may try to diminish your light, your value is not determined by their opinions. Stand firm in your truth. Carry yourself with quiet confidence. Let your success speak for itself. And when the time comes, use your victory not just for yourself, but to lift others who have been silenced, overlooked, or cast aside. True greatness is not just in winning, it's in what you choose to build after you have won. On behalf of everyone at US Edifying Stories, thank you for spending your time with us today. Thank you for believing in stories that matter, stories that remind us of the quiet power of grace, the resilience born from hardship, and the incredible strength we all carry within us. Your support means more than words can say. If Isla's story moved you, we invite you to share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And remember, no matter how hard the world tries to define you, your true worth is unshakable. Stay strong, stay kind, and stay true to who you are. We'll see you again soon, right here, where stories of dignity, justice, and hope find their voice.